When were you told to man up during your most vulnerable moment? I was crying in the hospital waiting room after my dad's heart attack when my uncle pulled me aside. "Stop the waterworks," he said, gripping my shoulder hard. "Your family needs you to man up right now." I was 19 and had never seen my dad look so small. He'd collapsed at work, and the doctors were saying words like massive and blockage. Mom was a wreck, sitting in that plastic chair, staring at the floor like she could will him back to health. My little sister wouldn't stop asking if daddy was going to die, her voice getting smaller each time, clinging to mom's sleeve like a lifeline. But here's the thing, I couldn't stop crying. Not because I was weak, but because I'd been hiding something for months that was eating me alive. Dad had been complaining about chest pain and shortness of breath since Christmas. I kept telling him to see a doctor, begging him even, but he'd brush me off saying he was fine. "Stop worrying like your mother," he'd say with that stubborn smile that used to comfort me, but now felt like a wall between us. I started noticing other things too, how he'd pause halfway up the stairs, pretending to check his phone but really catching his breath, his face slightly gray, how he'd make excuses to avoid carrying groceries, sending me instead with some joke about getting his money's worth out of having a strong son, the way he'd press his hand against his chest when he thought nobody was looking, this pained expression crossing his face for just a second before he'd straighten up and pretend everything was normal. Each time I saw it, this sick feeling would twist in my stomach, but I was too scared to push harder. What if I was wrong? What if I was just being paranoid like he always said? There were nights I'd lay awake thinking about it, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I should tell Mom, but Dad seemed so determined to keep it quiet, and I didn't want to betray his trust. He'd always been my hero, the strongest person I knew. I kept telling myself he was handling it, that he knew his own body better than I did. Maybe I was just overthinking everything. The night before his heart attack, I'd found his pills scattered on the bathroom floor after he'd rushed out for work, clearly flustered. He'd been taking medication in secret and hadn't told anyone. When I confronted him that evening, his face went pale, like a kid caught stealing candy. He made me promise not to worry Mom, grabbing my arm with hands that were actually shaking. "It's nothing serious," he said, but his voice cracked like it did when I was little and he was trying not to cry at sad movies. "Just getting old, buddy. Don't want to scare the girls over nothing." The fear in his eyes told a completely different story, and I knew I was looking at a man who was terrified but too proud to admit weakness. I should have told someone right then. Instead, I kept his secret like an idiot, thinking I was being the loyal son, protecting the family from unnecessary worry. Now he was lying unconscious with machines keeping him alive, and the guilt was suffocating me. Every beep from those monitors felt like an accusation. So when Uncle Mike told me to man up, I lost it completely. I screamed that this was my fault, that I should have told someone about the pills, about Dad's symptoms, about everything I'd been too scared to say. The whole waiting room went silent, people staring at the hysterical kid having a breakdown. That's when the cardiologist walked over. He'd been listening. "Son, those pills you mentioned, what did they look like?" I described them through my tears, and his eyes widened. "Those aren't blood pressure meds. Those are nitrates for severe angina. If you hadn't told us this, we would have given him the wrong treatment." My breakdown had just saved my dad's life. Uncle Mike never told me to man up again.